So let's call to order the meeting of the Home Inspection Licensing Board for June 8, 2021. Review the minutes of March 16 board meeting. Everybody have a chance to look at that?
Yeah,
I did. I didn't see any issues with it. I make a motion that we accept it as written.
yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Rich.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Yep,
Aye.
good.
Okay, so that passed. Comments or concerns of any person present today? I think there are any. DCP Investigation Division Complaint Status Report, which Bob mentioned, mailed out to us.
She's just a one person on there, right?
Yeah, Juanita, is that why you're here to talk to us about that?
Yes, it's Janita, and yes, I am.
Juanita. I'm sorry,
So-
Janita.
No, that's okay, Mr. Stanley. The report is there. If you or any of the members have any questions, I'll gladly answer it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The investigator investigated the complaint. It's a civil matter. The consumer was looking for money. It's a dispute of facts. And the complainant was trying to explain that a home inspector cannot make recommendations that there would be an issue with a piece of equipment and that the purchaser should have a licensed contractor look at it further to determine what needs to be done.
So the claiming party was saying that the inspector is not able to do that?
Yes. Yes.
Huh.
It happens all the time, not just with home inspectors. It happens with the electrical, the plumbing, the heating and cooling and so on, where there's a party that claims that the license holder cannot do what they're doing. The law specifically states otherwise. So people looking for money will sometimes try to get others to give them a letter that says, oh, no, that person was wrong. They never should have done that. And, here we
So
are.
is this possibly a case where the inspector found a problem or a potential problem, and he
Yeah.
suggested that it be followed up by a specific contractor, and the specific contractor was hired perhaps by the owner, and the contractor said, well, there's nothing wrong here, and then disputes the inspector's findings, and so that's what leads to the claiming party saying that the inspector shouldn't be doing this, because here I had to pay a guy $150 to come out here and tell me nothing's wrong. Is that kind of what happened, do you think? Or
Yeah, it's along those lines. The consumer wanted money to replace a piece of equipment. And the home inspector said in the report, as you all know, you do this, that you look at something, I can't take something apart, I can't tell you how much life is left in it, but in my report, the home inspector's report, they're going to tell the potential buyer that you need to have this piece of equipment inspected by a properly licensed electrician, if it's the electrical panel, a plumber, if it's the hot water heater, or a heating and cooling contractor, if it's about an air conditioner, a boiler, or a furnace. And the homeowner will will hire somebody. They say, no, I disagree. There's nothing wrong with it. They manage to get the sale to go through, and then the homeowner comes in and says, this failed. The home inspector is wrong. No, the home inspector said that it needs to be looked at by a licensed person. The licensed contractor comes in. The former homeowner doesn't have to repair anything. and they go from there. And then the buyer gets in there, something goes wrong, and then it's always going to be the home inspector's fault.
Okay,
And
so
when-
in this case, the buyer did not follow the recommendation of having it
to-
further evaluated?
I would have to excuse myself for a minute, get onto the complaint file in our records itself to be able to give you the exact
Hmm, all right, well.
details.
Well,
The home
Larry-
inspector was not wrong. They can tell the potential buyer that you need to hire a licensed person to evaluate the equipment. And that if there's then an argument or they think they're entitled to money, it then becomes a civil matter.
Well, it was.
If
So
you-
the home inspector recommended that they be further evaluated by a licensed plumber or whatever.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
and then the seller hired the person to come in and do it, and he said there's nothing wrong with it.
That's to tell you the exact information. I have to go excuse myself and look at that
Okay,
file.
but one other question is it the seller that's going after the inspector because he had to spend money to have something evaluated and it wasn't a problem?
No,
So this is Pamela Brown, Director of Investigations. What Janita can do is review the case and we can get you something written up via email through the board secretary to disperse to the chair. This way we can give you factual details rather than having to speculate what's going
Yeah.
on with the case or what happened with the case. I think
That
that
probably
would be the
makes, that
best.
makes great sense, Pamela.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
helpful. That's helpful, because right now I don't really see why the inspector was questioned. Oh,
Well, I've had a case where you refer, you know there's something wrong. I mean, I had a furnace that there was a hole burnt in the back of it from the
Yeah.
failed heat exchanger. And they had a contractor come in, heating guy, and says there's nothing wrong with it. So the client came back to me and said, he said there's nothing wrong with it. I says, I'm telling you there is. They went and bought the place anyway, going by with the other one. And then they tried to come back after me. And I says, look, I told you what was wrong with it and stuff, you know, go after the contractor that said it was okay.
well, it'd be interesting just to know a few more details. You know,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
I mean,
Pamela's
we're making
approach-
recommendations all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Pamela's approach is a good one. She can send us the details, and then if we have any further questions, we can talk about it at our next meeting.
Yeah, sounds good to
Yep.
me.
Okay,
Yep.
so let's
Sounds
plan on
good.
that. Janita, thanks very much for reporting on that, and I guess we'll talk to you next time.
yep.
Very good, thank
will.
you.
And I will look at that and I will throw an email out to Mr. Kuzmich.
Okay, super.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Okay,
Okay, so that's that one. And then old business, this is where Cynthia is going to jump in about our discussion on home inspector interns and supervisors and their notification on termination of supervision. So,
Good morning. How
good
are
morning,
you?
Cynthia.
Good. Yeah, I wanted to follow up with you because I kind of fell off the radar. I was out last week
Okay,
on an emergency unexpectedly, but since we have been going back and forth, I'd been going back and forth with Mr. Stanley with a version of, I guess, an addition or revision of the regs
mhm,
to address the issue of, notice for termination of supervision for interns. But I wanted to follow up with you and just, I think we kind of resolved at this point, whether it should say to notify the department or the board, because it's, from my understanding now with the explanation from Mr. Kuzmich, that is pretty much, one step that would be, required
right.
in order to notify the department and the board of the termination of supervision. So I just wanted to check in with you and see if there was anything else that you wanted to address before I can wrap it up and just send over a clean final version and then go from there.
Refresh my memory, Cynthia. So the way it's set up now, the when that relationship is terminated, there's an obligation on the part of the supervisor to notify the board or the department, however it's worded, within a certain period of time by mail that the relationship is terminated. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the proposed language that I wrote up was the supervising licensed home inspector shall notify the board of the termination of supervision of a home inspector intern within 10 days of such termination. And then the subsection would be such notice shall be submitted to the board. And I left that blank via, we have to come up with either an online way or a form
Yeah.
letter or, some way of notification.
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
sticking point was just whether it should say department or board. And I think we just, agreed that board is sufficient and that it would be consistent with the rest of the sections
Yeah.
of that reg.
And as a
And-
practical matter, it'll go to the department anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
Okay.
I just wanted to, check in with you all and see if that, covers it for you.
Yeah,
If there's
well,
anything else that you think should be.
Well, the only other thing I was thinking we ought to include is because the intern is listed on the department's website, there ought to be, to me, we ought to somehow flag that guy because the public might use that website to find somebody and make sure they've got a license. So if they
Right,
find this
right.
intern and it just shows that he's got his intern permit and it's not flagged that he's no longer got a supervisor, there's no way the public would know that he no longer has a supervisor and is not able to
Right,
do
and-
inspections. So is there a way that,
I
I
hit
don't know if that's something we'd include in the regulation or how that would be handled, but it seems like we ought to flag him or her on the website.
on the roster, yeah. I checked in with IT about that and it is real-time roster so that if someone goes online today, you're getting accurate information, in real time of who's licensed and who's not. So I'm not sure if it would be, just a matter of maybe adding, I don't know what the IT terminology would be, if they could add like another section or something that would flag, this person no longer supervised as of X date. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
or change the color so that they're
Right,
entry
maybe
red.
highlighted in red or
Mhm.
something.
Right.
Exactly, right.
And then have an asterisk or a footnote that says anybody in red's not currently supervised.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, and go
is
ahead.
is the intern being notified that he should not be doing inspections?
That was the other thing that I think you brought up also in your last email that, the intern needs to be notified some way of being told you're no longer supervised,
Mm.
you can't
Yeah.
conduct inspections until you do find another supervisor and notify the department of who that supervisor is. But
Mm.
is that something that we add to the regs or is it, you know what I mean? Or is it something that the department puts out or the board or?
How is stuff like that typically handled within the department? I don't know if that's a Richard question or a Bob question.
It's certainly not, I don't know.
Is there any other licenses that require this type of thing that you've had to deal with?
That I personally, no, I don't know of any other situation that's comparable.
Mhm.
Well, let me ask you this, Cynthia, if we put something, go ahead, Bob, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Bill.
Well, my thought
Bill.
would be, I really want to make sure that the public is aware that this person is no longer supervised.
Mm.
So I wonder if it makes sense to, our draft proposal for the regulation, include language that says the department shall somehow
Like post
flag
notification.
his name on the website so people know, and the department should also send a notice directly to the intern that they can no longer perform inspections until they have another supervisor that's in the department is notified of that fact. And then if,
Right.
as it goes through the process, people don't think that's appropriate, or if there's another way to do it, I'm fine with that, but I just think it needs to really be done.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if we're adding information that the supervisor has to, notify the board, can't we add something that the you know, the intern has a certain amount of time to get himself another supervisor, but until that time, he's inactive. And then we simply put inactive next to his name on the list. I mean, if someone's looking at the list, they're going to see a guy who's inactive. He doesn't have a supervisor.
Is there a column for that, active and inactive? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Well, it's a credential status, but that changes with with the renewal of the permit or the license.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I'm
And
not
and
sure how
I
we would.
think, yeah, I think I brought that up at the first time we ran through this, and I think everyone agreed that, because my question was, you know, do we want the intern's permit temporarily suspended, or, you know, until they have a new supervisor? But then that creates a whole nother can of worms in terms of, you know, statute and suspending and terminating and, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
deactivating permits and.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that you're right. That probably creates more steps than we need to. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
I think if we just say that the applicant, his entry on the website needs to somehow be flagged so that the people will know that he's no longer supervised.
Right.
And that a notice, I think the two things, that and then that a notice go from the board to the intern telling him or her that they are no longer able to do inspections until they have a new supervisor that is registered with the department. And
Okay.
I would lean toward putting them in your proposed regulation, putting that in your proposed regulation.
Right.
Just to make sure that it happens. And if there's a way, rather, you know, if it doesn't have to be in the regulation, but we can ensure that it's going to happen some other way, then that's fine. But I just want to really make sure we focus on that actually happening.
Right. Right. That the steps are actually spelled out and carried
Right,
out.
exactly. So can you draft add that to your draft and then maybe send it out to us to look at, and then hopefully we can get this taken care of at the next meeting.
Sure. Sure. Definitely.
That'd be great.
I'll put that together.
Are you guys good with that approach, Larry? And
You know, Bill, if you would just review it just a second, because my darn phone rang when you were talking.
oh,
And what is the piece that is alerting the public that the guy is not where he needs to be? What is that piece of what your
well,
recommendation?
my piece, the only place they have to look is really on the website.
Right.
And so my take would be somehow that his or her entry on the website needs to be flagged. Change it to red, put a different column in with a star or an asterisk that says there's something to let the public know when they see this particular entry, there's something different about it, and they can
Okay.
see what that means. So that's the notice to the public that they ought to not deal with this guy until he's got his new supervisor. And then
But
the other
what is the difference in that approach versus temporarily inactive and so on, like, and what Bob was
I'm
saying is that
fine
now
with
we got
that.
to change a bunch of stuff.
Well,
What is the difference?
I don't know whether if you change it to inactive, does that mean the department has to change 6 other things in the computer system? I don't know.
Well, that's what
fine
I'm
with
saying.
it.
If you highlight the guy's name, why doesn't that require this other activity as well in changing the regulation?
What do you mean?
If you're going to highlight the guy's name
Yeah,
and somehow explain to the public that this guy's highlighted name means this, that he's
Yeah.
not currently supervised,
yeah.
I don't understand why you don't have to go through a few more hoops by doing that versus just saying he's temporarily inactive.
Well,
I'm
that's-
fine
I-
with either approach.
Hey, Bill?
Yeah.
This is Richard.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's easy to go in the system and change someone from active to inactive status. Or we have statuses such as pending division approval that could be in there, whatever. So, but the problem is interns have multiple supervisors. So we do know initially when they fill out an application, they give us at least one supervising party that's going to be their initial supervisor. But they could have multiple supervisors in order to get done all their inspections.
All at the same time?
Yeah, you can have more than one supervisor. You could be working for multiple home inspectors.
Oh, and people do that?
It's allowable. I presume they do to try to get their inspections required.
Yeah, but usually what happens is these guys are, the supervisors are charging a ridiculous amount of money
Yeah,
to be a supervisor. And so I can't imagine that people are paying that kind of money to more than one
All right.
person.
No, I know that, but having said that, that's the way it's laid out in the regs.
Okay,
So, I mean, even if Bob got a letter from a licensed home inspector saying that Cynthia Fernandez is no longer being supervised by him to acquire her home inspector license and the number of reports she needs, Bob would have to get a hold of Cynthia and say, oh, by the way, in the meantime, do you have another supervising inspector or not? I mean, Bob's got to,
why
you
can't
know-
we just presume they've only got one supervisor and tell them they can't do any more inspections until they have another?
well, that would be in the letter that Bob would have to send out, that please be
Right.
advised, your home inspector has notified us that he or she is no longer supervising you. If you have a change of a supervisor, please inform us immediately before we make your credential inactive.
The other, sorry, the other issue is that, I would have to look into it, but off the top of my head, I think there would be an issue with simply inactivating someone's permit without a hearing or without like the statutory basis for making it inactive. It would be yeah,
Okay.
it would be the equivalent of terminating someone's license, to be an electrician without a hearing. And that's the part that I think is a sticking point also, because you can't take away someone's license without an opportunity to be heard, which is a hearing. And then who knows, with the way that things get backed up, how long that would take. And so,
Well, that's why the regs need to be amended.
yeah.
Mhm.
It would allow temporary suspension of an intern permit when there's the absence of a licensed supervisor.
But what if we just highlighted their name on the website and just had an asterisk that says currently not supervised or something like that? Put
Well,
it
we
in
can,
red.
but we have to get there by way of wording in the regs.
I understand, but in terms of getting away from we're not inactivating their permit by just highlighting it and saying they're not supervised. We're just telling people that. So I think we get away from the whole deactivation issue, don't we?
Right, that's probably an IT issue to get into some more specialties. But we probably have other drop-down fields already there we could probably use that says, like I say, pending division approval, just basically means, contact the division and find out what's going on,
Yeah,
I'd have to go, we have to go in the system first, but I think the
Okay.
regs have to be amended to allow us to put them in a still have a credential, but be in a
Yeah.
non-working capacity.
Okay, well, how about this? I mean, maybe you and Cynthia could work on that and figure out because the two things that I think we as the board are concerned about are, one, the public knows that he's not able to do inspections until he's got a new supervisor. And that's number one. And number two, that some notice goes from the board to the intern to alert them to the fact that they no longer have a supervisor and they can't do inspections. I mean, that seems redundant to me, but I think it's probably worth doing.
I think that's the most important part, is notifying
Well-
the intern.
Right, but
I mean, they
also the
should
intern's
know,
not gonna,
right?
but
I
if
think
the
the most
intern doesn't
important
have a
part is
licensed home
protecting them.
inspector, they're not gonna be able to get the report signed off.
Well,
But does you think that slows anybody down?
As far as what?
We just had a case that we had a hearing on where the guy didn't have a supervisor. He was doing inspections for a year.
But that's a different violation of law then they should be, it should be a civil penalty and whatever the law allows.
Right, but this guy screwed up a lot of people in the meantime. So my point is, let's not let these guys go out there without without a supervisor and do inspections, or at least provide some notice to the public that they're not supervised.
Right, and let them know up front that we found out you're no longer supervised.
Exactly.
Don't try to do
Right.
anything.
Right.
All right.
the thing is that unless the public goes to the website, they're not gonna know. And,
Well, but there's no other way for us to give them notice.
well, I
right?
know
No,
that.
but-
I
But if we have,
understand.
if Bob sends out confirmation to the intern saying, hey, we were informed your supervisor is no longer available, whatever the wording ends up being, then and Bob saves that into that intern permit credential screen, then we have that for evidence against the person too, that, hey, we even let you know, besides you knowing,
Yeah.
We even let you know that we knew you need to get a new licensed supervisor.
That's why I say that's
So-
that's one of the most important things is to notify the intern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
And Bob could probably check to see what he has for drop down fields and talk to Cynthia about what status could be used when that occurs.
Right, right. And I'll put together another line, that would say something like, temporarily suspend the permit until they have a new supervisor, something like that. We'll throw something together.
Or, must not engage in any home inspection work unless directly supervised by a licensed person,
Okay.
Right, right.
So maybe Cynthia, can you and Bob and or Richard come up with the language for those two other pieces and maybe send out a draft before the next meeting, and then we can talk about it, maybe even approve it next meeting.
Sure,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. I'll
be great.
get on it.
Okay, super.
Perfect.
Well, in that case you had that you're talking about where the intern went rogue,
Yeah,
are you aware of that case, Cynthia?
yeah.
Yeah, that was
It
the
was
one that
Cynthia
we did.
handled it.
Okay, so I mean, that's a good
Yeah.
thing to show to David Cousins or Julian or whoever you work directly with there in legal to kind of show them what problem is occurring, these regs need to be changed,
Right, right. The reason why we're even working on this, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because you're gonna have to keep that with you so that they don't say, well, we're not going to do regs for the heck of it. Everything's been
Yeah.
fine for 100 years already,
Right,
this-
okay.
I got a question on these companies that have multiple licensed inspectors and they have an intern in that company. Are those shared? What I'm saying is that intern working with all the inspectors in that group, or are they listed
Well, if the
that way?
license, right, if the other licensed home inspectors end up signing off on one of their work products, then they're responsible for that inspection.
What I'm saying though is, as far as the state is concerned, are all those inspectors listed as his interns, or are
No,
they're one intern?
No, the system doesn't have that right now. Bob only collects one name when the intern applies. In fact, you don't even get updates, do you, Bob, when they switch supervising license holders?
Not usually, Richard. Occasionally I do, and then I would update the system, but occasionally we're notified.
I think
Right.
that's
So
that
the
should be
difference,
done.
right, the difference here is in real estate, we could tell you who the broker of record is over a salesperson.
Right.
So that's kind of like the system you probably want for home inspectors and the interns.
Right.
And,
That would-
so it's, the system currently can do that, but it would be something where Cynthia maybe could at least talk to Jason Cohen, who's our IT person, and kind of say, how hard would it be to have a link, or Michael Elliott and licensing services, how hard would it be to have a direct link between an intern permit and the supervising licensed home inspector? So that, if that Bob breaks that link when he gets a letter, then it will indicate that not currently supervised. That's what happens in real estate.
Okay.
Right.
So that's a method that might want to be looked into.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that. I will. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe before the next meeting, send something out, and then we'll, we can do some stuff by email ahead of time if we need to
Mhm.
get this to a point maybe where we can vote on it at the next meeting.
And Cynthia,
Yeah,
license services with Michael Elliott, they do all the applications and transfer the supervising broker to another broker or whatever as the case, as time goes on. So Michael might be able to say to you, it would, he could do it. It would just follow the same process. That's all.
Sounds good.
exactly right. Makes sense.
And then then when you go into the person's
Right. It's not
credential screen,
reinventing the wheel.
right? And then when you go into intern's credential screen, the public will see not currently supervised.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
all right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'll follow up on that too.
Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, so good. So I guess that's the end of that one. New business. we have any new business, Bob? I'm not aware of any.
I am not, Bill.
Okay.
I don't
Anybody
have
else
any.
anything? Larry or Rich? No?
Nope.
Nope.
Correspondence? I don't think we have any. Do we have any correspondence, Bob?
I don't, Bill.
Okay.
You
No
can't
comments
just
or
make stuff up, Bob? Can't just add a few things?
I'm
once
sorry,
in a while?
Richard.
Never mind.
I couldn't hear you, Richard. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, maybe you could throw a few things in once in a while just to kind of keep things going.
Yeah.
Comments or concerns of any person present today? No, none that I'm aware of. So our next meeting is scheduled for September 21st.
Any idea when we're going back to, where we'll meet in person?
Bob, any thoughts on that or?
Well, after July 1st, there's plans in place to start bringing employees back. Right now, there's a tentative draft. We haven't gotten anything more from the commissioner yet, up to 50% occupancy, but I'm not sure the specifics yet, but it's supposed to begin per the governor's directive after July 1st.
So maybe by September, we'll be able to meet again in Hartford.
That's part of a song, Meet Me in September.
Yes, it is.
Everything's still in the air right now, so they're
Yeah.
saying during a 2-week period, starting July 1st, each employee is supposed to work 50% of the time in the office. But even that's in the air because a lot of people work better from home. And some people want to work in the office every single day. So there are people in the office now every single day in my group. But there's some people that just come in once a week when as needed, you know?
Okay.
I mean,
So we'll just have to
overall,
wait and see.
these work pretty good, but for the Zoom,
Yeah, saves a lot of driving for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it saves driving. We don't have to set up a room. We don't have to work with the guards to try to get all your IDs up to date because they expire every 90
Yeah, I
days.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
And Bob
Yeah.
goes downstairs to
Mine's
the
expired.
meeting room and he finds out there's no tables or chairs or not enough because somebody stole them. So we have to go around in the morning and steal them back. And then all the photocopying of everything.
Look at all the money we're saving the state by not having to pay us mileage.
Yeah.
That was a big goal right there. That 54 cents a mile from each of you is pretty nice.
Yeah. I'm missing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I think we're done, gentlemen, unless
Yeah.
anybody's got anything
All
else.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
That's a great idea. I
I'm
second it.
seconding. I'm good with that.
All right, take
All right,
care.
guys.
Okay,
Good
talk.
thank you. Have a nice summer, guys.
You
Yeah,
too.
you too.
Okay.
Take care now.
All right, thank you.
Don't
Thank
forget
you.
Ocean Fair.
All
Yep.
right.
We'll have it this
When
year.
is it? Oop, he left.
I'll be checking out, guys. Talk to you soon.
Yeah,
Take
me
care,
too.
guys. Yep.
Bye.